Hello, my name is Sage Gauthier. This is my Decomp Lab presentation. I named my report Do Cold Temperatures Affect Decomposition Levels? How I set this up was I had two bins. One was my control, which I placed in my closet, which temperatures were around 70 degrees. And then my other bin was my experimental bin, which I placed on my windowsill. And since this was during the winter, it was around below freezing. Sometimes it was a little warmer, but it's Michigan, so the weather's a little unpredictable. But for my independent variable was the cold temperature, and then the dependent variable was the rate of decomposition. I made sure that the number of times I opened the bins was the same. I put the bins back in the same spot every time, and there was the same amount of items in each bin. For the items, I chose a water bottle cap for plastic, a paper ball for my paper, a grape for fresh food, Cheeto Puff for processed food, a ramen piece for processed food, stick for yard waste, tweezers for metal, toothpick wood, eggshell biodegradable, and a straw, which is also biodegradable. My hypothesis for this experiment was that cold temperatures will slow down decomposition and moisture levels in the soil. My prediction was that the bin placed next to my window will have lower decomp levels since it is exposed to freezing cold temps compared to my bin in the closet that will consistently be around 70 degrees. Here are some photos of my project. For some reason, the quality did not upload very well, but on the top left, that was the start of it. So you can see all 10 of my items in the control on the left, experimental on the right. On the right are the ending of the two bins. As you can see on the left, there's no Cheeto Puff, no ramen piece, and on the right, they're very molded and fuzzy and gross in the experimental bin. And I made sure each week I collected data on the mass of each item, the color of each item, odor. It was kind of gross, but I did smell them. And I also described what all of the items looked like, if there was any like color differences, the shape of them. The piece of paper like would have wet spots on it, so I made sure to keep track of that. And I also took the percent mass change from the beginning of the experiment to the end, and I took photos of the items each week. Here are the results from my experiment in some charts and some numbers. On the top left, I have the percent mass change from the control and the experimental bins, just kind of summarized, and it's not all my charts. And then on the right is a graph of them. And as you can see, some of the trends that were very notable were that the Cheeto Puff and the ramen piece fully decomposed in the control bin, and that's on the bottom right. That's the one that you can see went down the furthest. Um, the stick was hard for me to weigh. It sometimes wouldn't really show up until I tried to put it on a couple times, but that happened in both bins, but there didn't lose any piece of the stick. It was just the weight was lessened on it. And then the tweezers in the plastic cap had no change. They were the same every time, other than I believe that sometimes if soil got stuck on them, then that would increase the weight, but I tried to clear off as much as I could, just sometimes it wasn't good enough. And then the other things I noticed was that the paper bowl increased, but it was getting wet and kind of like heavier, I guess. And then the toothpick became brittle and broke off in the experimental bin because it was very dry in the soil for that one. Overall, I would say that this experiment did support my hypothesis that cold temperatures would slow down with decomposition. I would go with that because the only decomposition that really showed was in the or in the control bin, and the experimental bin there was none. Obviously there wasn't that much time to do this experiment, but that is the results I got from it. Like I said earlier, weighing the items was tough. Soil would stick to them. And also, my bin for the experimental got knocked over multiple times because of my cats, but it happens. If I were to do this again, I would definitely try and do longer times and find a way to isolate the temperatures better. Thanks.